Just a practical example. God forbid, my whole life collapses, right? I lose everything that I have. Tomorrow, I can go work at Walmart for 20 bucks an hour. I'll still be able to put food on the table. I won't starve and I won't be homeless. But in Egypt, that's not an option. You can't just go find a minimum wage job. You would probably make 50 cents an hour and then
Wow.
it won't even pay for the gas to go to the job and come back.
Wow.
So you're forced to think to multiply what you have and think for the future. It's literally the only way. If you don't do this, you won't survive.
Are you a hardworking dad, juggling family responsibilities while dreaming of building wealth through real estate? Welcome to the Invested Fathers Podcast, where we explore how to balance investing and fatherhood. I'm your host, Kenny Johnson, founder of East West Capital. Over the past 5 years, I've been buying real estate to free up my time and secure my family's future. Now I'm here to help you do the same. Join me as we navigate the real estate world together, building wealth and strengthening our families. As my grandma always said, East West, home's best.
Fady Gergis, buddy, welcome to the
Hey,
show.
Kenny.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Fady and I met a few weeks ago in Kansas City, and this guy is the master of technical sound. I'm going to say it wrong, but just this guy has the biggest screen and sound bar with just the sickest studio. For those that are not watching, like with YouTube or whatever, the guy just looks amazing from his setup. So I hope that you can see and not just hear this episode on the podcast. But Fady,
Thank you.
tell us about your business. What are you into? How are things going?
Sure. I feel like it's the hardest question to answer
Yeah.
because a lot of people have like that one thing that they do and this is it, but it's like not who I am. Sometimes it's like a lot harder to answer that question. So I own a tech company. It's called Lumia, which is me and two my friends of mine. So we're three partners, and we build custom websites, mobile apps, CRMs for businesses, all that kind of stuff. And we specialize more on the custom and higher level customization required for businesses and stuff like that, versus the basic stuff. So that's part of what I do. I more handle like the UX part, the user experience, project management, client relations, all that kind of stuff. And then I also own a production company. That's where you came over a couple weeks ago, where we do all kind of production, audio, video, visuals, whether it's for documentaries, movies, podcasts, songs, just all kind of visual, audiovisual, AV production, basically. And through that company, I do a lot of consulting for AV as well, for venues, entities, events, places, stuff like that. And then I also do real estate investments. And I have for the last 8 years now, 9 years, here in Kansas City. We got several properties between short-term and long-terms and stuff like that in Kansas City. I also work at a local church here in Kansas City as the music director, as on the side, because I love it and I love music, and I help just with the worship team over there at the church as well. And I do a lot of marketing consultancy for businesses. I don't do like the day in, day out daily, I don't manage social media accounts and stuff like that. It's more of the bigger picture, driving the whole ship in which direction, and just giving overview of marketing direction for the companies. Yeah, that's kind of a brief of what I do a little bit.
Now I understand why you said that was a hard question to
Yes,
answer.
and I think launching two more companies in 2025. So that's why I feel like
Dude,
it's such a complex
settle
thing.
down, please. You're making everyone feel bad here. No, that's awesome, Fady. And I think that like the cool thing I felt through that answer was you love what you do. It sounds like, I mean, they're all kind of,
Yes.
there's a similar thread that's running through them, but you're choosing to do all these things and these ventures. And man, hats off to you, and applaud you for
Thank you.
doing this. I mean, I gotta ask, how did this start? So, um, what
Would
did
you
you?
believe me if I told you that I graduated school as a dentist?
No,
There's another
I
surprise.
forgot about that. Okay, so
And I did practice dentistry for a while, actually. I still have a license to practice. I worked as an oral surgeon for a few years before I quit all of this and I'm doing what I'm doing. So I guess that's how it started as a dentist.
man, okay, so yeah, okay, let's go back a few years. I want to go to
Okay.
like the childhood here. Bring us through like number one. So we're talking business, but I we can shift to like the family dynamic. What was it like growing up in the Gergis household? But also bring us through like the mindset of like the young entrepreneurial spirit that eventually came out and did all these things.
Sure. So I grew up in Egypt, Cairo, Egypt. So I moved to Kansas City about 14 years ago, but I spent most of my life in Cairo, Egypt. So obviously culture is significantly different than here. My whole family were medical family. So my dad was a surgeon, my mom is a pediatrician, my sister is a pharmacist, my uncle is a doctor as well. So I grew up in a medical family, and I guess that's how I ended up into the medical field, unknowing this is what I wanted to do or not.
Mhm.
But because of the nature of the culture, uh, it's a hard life. We grew up in a very hard life. We don't have the luxury of living on government stipends or unemployment benefits or something like that. If you don't work really hard, you actually won't be able to eat food at the end of the day. And that was the culture. So that kind of always put us into the position of you're always thinking ahead, thinking of how can you improve, how can you grow what you have, how can you invest in what you have, planning for the future. You can, like we grew up never with the mindset of if I have $100 in my bank account, I just can go tomorrow and buy something for $100 and let me worry about tomorrow. That was like a big no-no in our family. In our family, you plan for your future, you plan for your investments and savings and all that kind of stuff. I've also seen my parents, both of them work very, very hard. My dad worked, I don't know, sometimes 15, 17 hours a day, being a surgeon and a doctor. And it wasn't so he can be rich. It was so he can actually provide for the family because of living standards are so different over there. And you pay as a doctor is not that high either. So we didn't live rich. We actually lived more probably on the lower class, not even middle, to be
Wow.
honest.
Wow.
Even as doctors, we still live
Right.
in the lower class as a doctor.
It's crazy.
It is. I mean, my first paycheck as a dentist when I graduated, working for a hospital full time, I think it was like $200 a month, um, as a dentist.
Wow.
So yes, that's like yeah, like I think it's easy 6-figure here,
Yeah.
being a fresh grad out of dental school, working full time. But that kind of kept in our mindset the idea of you need to work hard, you need to prepare for the future. Also, another thing in our culture that I've learned from my parents significantly is that you help your children and you build for them, not just for yourself. They've done that in my life, like they invested in helping me get a car. So it put in my mind, okay, I want to do that for my kids. I want to work hard. I want to build something that I can transfer over to my kids. So when they grow and become in college or high school, they don't have to go into significant amount of debt to start their career, and they don't have to start from scratch. Because as a parent, I set some foundation for them to build on top of versus they're starting completely from scratch.
Yeah. So that idea of, hey, you're not just working for yourself here or for today, so that when I'm gone or, as my son gets older, they have something. And the goal is to provide first, not just for today, but for the future. And that was instilled in you, I'm sure not just from them telling you, sitting down, talking to you, but you just saw that day in, day out.
Watched it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Day in, day out. It is mostly the culture because there's no contingency plans set in third world countries. Like here, it's just a practical example. God forbid, my whole life collapses, right? And I lose everything that I have and I start from scratch. And tomorrow I can go work at Walmart for 20 bucks an hour. I'll still afford a small apartment to live in. I'll still be able to put food on the table with that small salary. I won't starve and I won't be homeless. But in Egypt or some of third world countries, that's not an option. Like if you did this and things collapse and you lost what you have, you can't just go find a minimum wage job and then that would actually at least put food on your table. You would probably make 50 cents an hour and then
Wow.
it won't even pay for the gas to go to the job and come back.
Wow.
So you're forced to think to multiply what you have and think for the future. That's the only way. It's literally the only way. If you don't do this, you won't survive.
Wow.
Now, moving to the States, I'm realizing some people think that way, which they're smart. Some people don't because they don't feel like they have to.
I don't. You're absolutely right.
If I wasted all my money tomorrow and I lost everything, I'll start from scratch and find something else to do. And, I'll go get a minimum paid job until I figure out what to do. Like taking breaks from jobs or taking a year sabbaticals and stuff like that. That was never options for us growing up. Like you just work hard. You don't have the luxury to say, I'm just going to quit working for a year and then just resume later, I think it has its pros and cons. Obviously it's a hard culture and it's a third world country. It has a lot of cons to it and there's a lot of poverty. But also it installs in you the mentality of working hard, being grateful for what you have and learning how to multiply what you have and grow it and never just sit down and be like, oh, I got enough paycheck this month, so I'm good to go and I don't have to worry about anything else. And you're not building more wealth for yourself and your family.
This is a topic that I'm really into, and I'm realizing that in almost everyone I interview, this comes up. You came from a certain place, destitute or poor. You've made it, or you've changed that environment to where you are today. You had no choice in that. The way your family was, the location, like that was just the cards you were dealt. So now you have a family, and you are now choosing the environment that they're in. How do you instill the same type of positive values and lessons that you received, even though you're in a completely different environment?
Yeah. So I have a 7-year-old daughter about to be 8 in a couple months, and I have a 4-year-old son. So with my daughter right now, for example, I try to work more with her at the understanding the value of things because, hey, Dad, I want to go to a vacation in Mexico, but then she doesn't understand how much it costs to go there. And at the same time, she would ask me, say, why do you have to go to work? Why don't you just play with us? So
You get that question too?
I get that all the time.
Goodness gracious.
Especially because a lot of the hours of my work, I work in my office, which is right here downstairs. Upstairs is our house, downstairs is my office. So they see me going downstairs, like, we're going to go to the pool. Come with us. I'm like, I can't. But then I try to explain to her in things that make sense and says, hey, her name is Nora. It's like, Nora, you love to go to the vacation on the beach, right? It's like, okay, this cost X amount of work for Daddy to do this, to be able to do that. And then installing in her the value of you need to work hard to get good stuff in life. It just doesn't come to you naturally. You got to work hard. And my dream for them is to have them understand the value of working hard. But at the same time, when they turn 18, I'm not going to say, go do it on your own. I'm more like, okay, I'm going to help you start. Here is $100,000 to invest into your first business. Or here is your first home. Turn it into an investment property, a rental property, and use the money from that to pay for your school. Or something like this. But they understand now the value of growing what you have so you can have better things. Obviously, it was Nathan, my son, who's 4. I'm still working with that on him because it's a lot smaller. But I feel like it's the little things that you tell them throughout the day and answering their questions. It makes a big difference. So so this is a true story. A few weeks ago, Nora at school was one of her friends who are very close friends of ours as well. And she noticed the girl is just crying. Her parents are incredibly successful business men and women. They own several businesses in Kansas City, entrepreneurs, amazing. And then the girl was crying. So Nora asked her, "Why are you crying?" And then she says, "It's because my mom is working and she's not here with me." And then Nora tells her, so I hear that from Nora's teacher, that Nora tells the girl, she's like, "It's okay. You don't need to cry about this. They have to work hard so they can provide good stuff for you. And then you can go to vacation and then you can have good food at home and drive a nice car. But that's part they have to do." And she's 7. But she's telling her
Wow.
friend, she's coaching her friend of what it made me feel like, okay, what I've done with her, it didn't go to waste.
Oh my
She's
goodness.
actually listening.
That's like the proudest moment, I'm sure. That's
But even
awesome.
sometimes it doesn't feel like she's listening.
Right.
But these little seeds of understanding that things come at a cost, there's consequences for your actions. Like we talk several times about prison, breaking the law, stuff like that. And what did that look like? And okay, well, if I do this, here's the consequences. If I get something on my record, it's very hard for me to get a job. This is going to affect the next 20, 30 years of my life. It's not just, let's just figure it out tomorrow. No, there are real consequences to your actions. If I decided to go spend all of my money on vacation and I got no left savings or no left in investments, then next year comes around, we'll be in trouble and we might lose our house. So just installing these things in them, it helps them to understand their value. And then as they grow, they realize that they're still living a nice lifestyle, but they're not being fed this spoon gold, right? Gold spoon.
Fady, how old are you?
I am about to be 38 in a couple weeks.
Okay. What I'm really curious about, you put in so much awesome energy into building your business. I'm excited to hear, do you have that same energy into the family? Like, what does that look like for you?
Absolutely. Yes. Memories, family memories are something money will never buy. And I never want to be 50 and be like, I did not build memories with my family. And I talk about personal memories with my wife and memories with all 4 of us as a family. So taking time off to spend with them, taking them to their favorite places, going to the beach together, flying, traveling. Like I have the last 5, 6 years of our marriage, I've been very intentional, for example, with my wife on our anniversary. I always try to take her somewhere for 3 to 4 days, a minimum 3 to 4 days. And I will have my in-laws watch the kids so we can have our own memories that we're building. And then once or twice, and then several times throughout the year, we'll do smaller to medium-sized trips as a family to invest in time together. The other thing is, part of me investing into my family was deciding to build my office in my house versus going somewhere, because it allowed me to be present, especially at this age, because I am more flexible. I kind of control my time in a way. So then I can take a break last week from 2 to 4, which normally it would be a peak working hour if I had a corporate job, and then just go to the pool with the kids and then hang out and then wake up a couple hours extra early the next morning to make up for it if I needed to. This also makes a big difference being around, picking lunch breaks with them. Another thing that I've done that really helped as well, I'm not a super early morning person. I'm more of a late nighter, but so I get up normally at 7 a.m. So I'd have a cup of coffee. I can be down in my office at 7:30, ready to work. But then I realize that 7:30 to 8:30 is they're still home before they go to school, because they don't leave the house until like 8:15 or whatever. So I'm like, okay, instead of starting work early, I will make up that hour sometime later when they're not here. But I'll make sure that the morning I'm there with them every single morning. We're having breakfast together. We're spending some time in the morning together before they move on with their day. I mean, another thing is the reason why I try to build businesses and run my own business, so I never have to feel the need that I end up having to work in a corporate company, for example. I've entertained the thought multiple times, but I've always said I would rather be my own boss, because I have the flexibility to spend time with my family and my kids as much as I want. And I'm not in the mercy of somebody giving me some days off.
Mhm.
So we plan, for example, in 2025, we're going to take the kids and we're going to spend a week in Europe and 2 weeks in Egypt.
Awesome.
And we're gonna tour. I'm gonna take them over there. I'm gonna show them all the stuff where I grew up and go to the beach and do a whole bunch of stuff. But I would have been, and it's not just the cost of flying there. It would have been very impossible if I had a corporate job and I wanted to take 3 or 4 weeks off in the middle of the year to build memories with my family.
Mhm.
So these are some of the practical examples of how I'm making myself available, spending more time building memories. And it's kind of crazy how they remember those things. Like we went to Mexico last year and it meant the world to them. For the last year since we got back from Mexico, the amount of times that they mentioned the trip that we made and the stuff that they have done there, and they want to see the pictures of what they have done and the videos. And it makes me realize like the time you spent with them and the memories you built with them, it means the world to them. And the more I see this, the more I want to do this, and the more I want to make memories with my family because they will last forever. And you only get one chance at making memories at a specific age. Because then time flies, and then I'm not going to be making memories with my son who's 4 the same way that I'm going to make it with him when he's 10, in the same way that I make it with him when he's 15 or 18.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah, it's different. So I'll try to capitalize on these while I can. And in another thing, I was told this by a friend of mine and actually kind of really engraved in my heart. He was saying, a lot of people say we're going to work hard, build, build, build. So when we are in our 50s and 60s, we got enough and we can fully retire, and then we can do all of this. But what you don't realize, one, you missed on all the stuff in your 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s. But then 2, when you have and you're blessed with the health and the physical health enough to be able to do a lot more, you're not. And when you're in 50s and 60s, God only knows what you're going to be doing health-wise. And a friend of ours, we were like, we wish we would be touring the world like you guys are right now, because now if we tour the world, we can't explore. Or he's saying, I can't walk 20,000 steps a day exploring Italy because we just can't. So even our enjoyment of things are not going to be the same. So do it while you can, and don't just wait to do it when you have money. And also their interest is going to be different in 10 years. Yeah. They're not going to want to do the same stuff. But they will remember when they were 5 and 6 and 7, and they wanted to do these things, but dad wasn't there to do it with them. Yeah. Because he was too busy.
Yeah. The work-life balance. It's a buzzword. Yeah. I actually kind of hate even saying that out loud because I feel like, well, what is the balance? Is it this today or is it this today? And I'm always a dad and I'm always a worker and I'm always a husband. So like, is it, 33% of everything, I really feel like the answer is within what do the kids need today? I mean, because a 4-year-old needs something different than a 14-year-old. And there's the girls and the boys. I heard a really cool tidbit from some Instagram speaker. Science has proven that what kids need from their moms is like cuddling and comfort, and they get a certain brain chemical oxytocin thing when that happens. And from the dads, they get more oxytocin from when we play with them and spend time with them. And the dad also gets the same amount of oxytocin, like this surge of happiness drug that from just, the word was playing with them, but I think it's also just spending time with them in like a playful manner.
This is something I personally struggled with, and I am working on getting better and better with it, trying my best. Is when you go home from work, you don't take work with you. Mm-hmm. And I've realized there were certain clients I worked with under what I'm doing, because of the stress that these clients brought, it ended up carrying over to being home after work is done. And it affected me being mentally present with my kids and my wife and being able to actually even enjoy hanging out with them and stuff like that, because I'm just feel all stressed and overwhelmed and I'm realizing sometimes letting go of these clients might be the best thing you do, even if you lose a bunch of money because they were big clients. But I did let them go, and I lost quite a bit of income on that. I'm just going to try to make it up somewhere else. because being mentally present sometimes is even harder than being physically present. You can take off specific hours and be with them, but your brain is somewhere else. And that's something that I'm continuously working on and trying to improve in, because it's a hard thing, especially
Dude,
when you run your own business. Your mind is just all over the place.
I'm so glad you brought that up. We could pat ourselves on the back because, hey, we're present with our kids, right? But like we have our phones out, or we're like pushing aside our kid who's pulling us down, saying, "Play with me, daddy." Be where your head is at, like be present. Where your feet are
Yeah.
is where you need to be, and that's been a struggle for me, of course, as well. And I'm sure a lot of other people. I'm glad you talked about struggles. Another question that I feel is just helpful for anyone listening out there. We bring on these people on the show. They've talked about their successes, and usually it's just a really cool. I mean, you've done so many great things. We're all still human. We're all still dads. We all still face these different things. But what's been a struggle you've gone through that you're either still in right now, or you've come out of it and can share maybe some insights into that?
Totally. Give me a moment here. There's always struggles everywhere. When you work really hard in your time of rest, you prefer to rest in a specific way. So, for example, I like golfing. So in my time of rest, I just want to go for a couple hours golf and just relax and clear my mind. But those couple hours is the 2 hours that I'm going to need to spend with the kids because I'm done working, and that's the time before they go to bed. So being able to work your way into still finding your time of rest with the family versus just doing what you prefer to do alone was a struggle and is still. And I trying to balance where I can do certain things that help me charge, but then also because I have a long work day or a stressful work day after work, now I just can't hang out with the kids. I need to go do something by myself so I can recharge, because practically it's just not going to work. So finding that place of rest and recharge with the family, my wife and the kids, versus just doing it on my own, it's obviously been a struggle that I am just working on, and I feel like it's going to be forever, just continuing to work on it forever.
Yeah. Time management, just those words have been huge. I would say rest and recreation, or, there's different buckets that we do need. Has that just been trial and error in regards to figuring that out?
Well, in a matter of finding what does rest look like for me, that was a trial and error.
Okay.
Like what are things when I do, it recharged me and it helps me to focus and be more productive with my family as well as work. That has been trial and error. And actually on that note, and I didn't realize this until I heard somebody say it, I found myself doing a lot of home projects, which kind of feels stressful for a lot of people, but I find myself wanting to do it. And then I found, I was listening to a podcast, and this person said, if you work, most of your work is with your mind, it is natural to feel you want to rest with your hand. Because when you rest with your hand, it actually stops your mind from running nonstop. If I sit here in the room and then just play some music and then just have a quiet moment, it will not be quiet because my brain is going to run faster, not slower. You got more space for your brain to think and come up with new business ventures and ideas and projects and opportunities. But when I am building a shelf or putting pavers, I did pavers in my patio a few weeks ago, which was a nightmare project. But during that time, my brain actually stopped thinking about work and it's just thinking about that little thing that I'm using my hands with. So I found that this is a way for me to rest. So that was part of the trial and error, is finding, recently found that golf is a rest for me, is because I'm really focused on how to improve the shot and the swing and all these things. So I don't think about other things while I'm doing this. That's been restful for me. So that's definitely been a lot of trial and error. But time management, that is not necessarily a trial and error. That's how self-motivated you are. At the end of the day, you make time for what you want to make time for.
Agreed.
If I am scrolling for 2 hours on Instagram, I made time for those 2 hours, so I can't just come back and complain I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
I made that time. So business owners who are not enough self-motivated, they'll drag, install, and procrastinate, and then you end up with bad time management. If you're really self-motivated, you will find ways to work hard and maximize your time, and just whatever you used to do in 8 hours, you're going to try to do it in 4. So that way you got more time to do other things. What people do when they're desperate, it's different. And I'm not saying desperate in a bad way. I'm saying if my mindset, I have to provide for my family, I have to build future for them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a top priority in my life because it's my job as a dad and as a husband is to keep my family safe and provide to the best of my ability. If this is always in the top of my priorities, I will always find ways to improve my time management and efficiency in what I do so I can provide more time for my family. But if this is not a priority, then I will be self-motivated in my business and in my work, and I will also end up wasting a lot of time in the process.
If we're talking maximization of efficiency, is that your superpower? I guess
No, but it's actually part of my work. I consult for businesses do this.
Okay.
The way that I am wired, time is money. And not just that time is money, time is even more than money. Time is way more valuable than money. Time is money only in the 8 hours of work that you're working a day. But outside of that, time is a lot more than money because the 2 extra hours that I made by maximizing efficiency today to spend with my kids, that is worth a lot more than money. I always look at a situation, work scenario, or a company, how they're operating or something like this. And I don't ever say, oh, it's like, well, it's working. If it's not broken, don't fix it. That's the mentality of a lot of people. It's like, if it's not broken, just leave it alone. It's like, no, if it's not broken, it means it's working, but how can we make it work better? How can we maximize resources? I've taken departments in businesses where it was 20 people and I ran it at the same efficiency. It was 4. This is a true story. So they had 20 people running a department. And then I said, I will run it with 4. And they said, you won't be able to. And I said, give me 1 year and I'll run it for you with 4. I ran the whole department with 4. And whatever their product was, it was multiplied by maybe 5 or 6 times by the end of that year. And here's the thing, the 4 that worked were happier than the 20. Because the 4 got paid better salaries, because we had a budget for 20. So I used some of that budget to pay the 4, and individually that got paid a whole lot more. So they got value to them to stay. They had less turnover. I hired higher skilled personnel to do the job. So it was done more efficient, a better quality, better outcome, less people to manage and maintain, less communication errors or faults. And everything was more efficient and less stressful, and then it just produced way better outcome. So I kind of followed the same principle and even my own work. But when I look at it from the productivity perspective, how many hours did that save me and made me available to do other things and with family? It was like, yeah, that makes total sense. And then just take that principle and apply it to everything else I'm doing, using a project management software versus just trying to remember things out of the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Keeping, I have organized notepads. I have folders and files for all my projects and clients backed up in 3 different locations and backed up in a cloud, and I can access it from every computer that I want at any real time. Well, it saves me the worry of files are lost or where is my files. It saved me organizing my stuff and having to sort through thousands of emails to find a piece of information or a document. It's just all these, I'm always looking for ways to improve efficiency, not so I can make more per hour, but then so I can have more time available in my life to do other things that I enjoy, like playing sports, like being with my family, like traveling, that kind of stuff. And feeling overwhelmed it not only takes away your hours, it takes away the time after you're done working as well. Because that overwhelming feeling of you don't have control of what's going on, you lost grip of it. It's a chaos at work, and you got so many projects and you can't keep up with what's happening, and you're behind schedule and deadlines on half of them. You go home and that stress carries over with you. And then it becomes what you said earlier about physically present but mentally gone. But being on top of things, then you can let your mind be more at ease when you're home done with work. I had a meeting with a client this morning who is very overwhelmed for what he's doing at his job. And I told him, I said, you're trying to run 3 hats. One of them is marketing. You don't know much about marketing. So you're trying to make up for that lack, and then you're very overwhelmed. And he runs like a 7-figure business, and I said, why not hire someone to do that part so you don't feel overwhelmed and you be on top of it? And he was like, at the end of the conversation, he was like, yeah, I just never thought of it this way. I thought of it because I'm the business owner, I'm responsible, but I didn't learn how to delegate. And then he was like, it's been hell for us for the last year because it's been very stressful, me and my wife running that business. And then I was like, okay, if you delegate 1 and 2, delegate this third one, you only oversee this part. And then I kind of like shuffled a bunch of his cards, and he was like, okay, yeah, that
sounds great.
let's do it. So we're starting August 1st to do restructuring in his departments and stuff like that.
Great.
It really makes a huge difference when you maximize your resources of what you have. And it keeps you happy. It keeps your employees happy, keeps your family happy, and you have longevity. You can run that race longer versus being burnt out after 1 year or 6 months or something like that. Because we're playing the long game here. You're not trying to work for the next 6 months and then be burnt out and quit. You want to have a sustainable lifestyle for the next 15, 20, 30, 40 years, So you got to do it right where it doesn't burn you out or burn your family out or burn your employees out. Because that would just be a bad business model at this point.
Fady, you have put this into words so eloquently, and you made it seem so simple and just like, duh, that's what we should be thinking. I really appreciate you
Thank you.
Just the way you said it. Really cool. Very solution oriented. Fady, we're just about out of time. I want to give you the opportunity to say, if there was something I didn't ask that you wanted to answer, or just a key takeaway to leave our audience. You've left so many awesome nuggets already.
If I want to leave something, honestly, I would say God comes first, family comes second, and your business comes third. And the purpose of your business is to help your family. If your business becomes a priority before your family, you will become the absent dad, because you start to pull your identity completely from your business and not from becoming a father. Now, I'm not saying, and I want to draw a clear line here because I know some will say the other way, not saying don't celebrate your success and have satisfaction from being successful in your work, because you are made to be successful in your work, and we are made to enjoy and celebrate our success at work. But I want to make myself constantly aware that my success at work is to help my family, and is not the ultimate goal. It's not the end of the story, is that I succeeded at work and I made X amount of money. Is I succeeded at work, made X amount of money, so I can take that and invest it into my family and do 1, 2, and 3, and 4 with my family. This is my ultimate goal, not just to grow my business. And keeping that mindset and that mentality, and I have to remind myself with it over and over, it will stop you from being extremely frustrated and depressed when things don't go well at work. It will also keep you better self-motivated at work because you're doing it onto a greater cause. People with no cause in their life, they will work much less, and they will not be motivated, and they will tend to quit and walk away. People who stick around are the ones that have a greater cause and a vision to follow. A vision cannot only be to build a big company. A vision is to help my wife and my kids and invest into my family and the future of my family and the next generation and the next generation. And in growing my company is a tool to help me achieve that vision, and trying to keep that mindset always in that order, because it will make you a better businessman, as well as make you a better family member, as well as keep you better self-motivated and more productive.
The parable of the talents, you are like, to me now, the image of what God gave this person 10 talents and said, hey, use this. I love hearing everything you've said. It seems like you are optimizing the resources, the energy, the gifts, the money, the mindset to further glorify God and serve your family. So thank you, Fady. Thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for having me.
we will be keeping track on your journey, my friend. I'm excited to see what God has for you.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Invested Fathers podcast. If you liked this episode, we would love for you to click subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate all of your hard work as a father and look forward to our next episode together.